Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the final for Environmental 101. Very important class. In this class, we study the connection between the natural environment and the built environment and how we can build in harmony. We also develop a very important proposal for humanity. How can we bring our neighborhoods into balance? For that, we went through two studies and exercises. One, shape grammar and emotional space. Two, tensegrity, because everything is interconnected and interdependent. And the third one, actually a proposal for urban interventions like SimCity or Minecraft for real. I am super proud of all the students, how hard they have worked, learning the software, learning the ecological restoration driving our cities today. And I hope that all of you guys can learn from their presentations and give you ideas of how we can bring our communities into balance. Our first presenter will be Tristan Pangolinian. Thank you.
Good morning. This is my first project. Okay, so this is the shape grammar project. There's a lot to it. There's analog models, there's digital models, and more. And so what shape grammar is basically that it's saying that different shapes and compositions of shapes can have different emotions. And so for this project, we're trying to convey a certain emotion and we're following design rules. So this is my project. I use cardboard to cut out these rectangles. I believe they're 1 by 2. And I just made a composition. And there's my analog drawings. We used white pencil on black paper. And then we went to SketchUp and we put our model in 3D. And so here are some of the orthographic and axonometric views. And so description for this project, we're given a number of pieces and rules to create something based off an emotion. And I decided to do joy and openness as I was taking inspiration from a rose. So my design principles for this project were rotation, rhythm, and balance. And I tried focusing on a center point and tried to make all the pieces spiral around it. And this gives it a rotational rhythm. And my design also applies balance from the 3 sticks arranged in a triangular shape. And so other classmate designs, there was Layla's design, which focused on balance, and Vicente's design, which had hierarchy and movement. And then finally, for this project, we made a poster, and this is what mine looks like, which is basically just a summary of everything we did. Okay, next project, we have tensegrity. It follows the same format as the last one. And so what tensegrity is basically describes structures that have both tension and compression elements. And what this does is makes structures stable. So understanding tensegrity can help in various fields such as architecture, engineering, and designing. And then here you can see an example of a tensegrity structure, and it looks like it's floating. So in nature, tensegrity is found much more commonly than it seems. Some examples are cells, spiderweb, and trees. And here, spiderweb is a perfect example because the strands of the web are under tension while the center part is under compression. And this is what gives it strength. Okay, analog model. This is what I made for tensegrity structure. And we used wooden dowels, rubber caps, and an elastic string. So you only need 3 parts. This is my drawings. did a top view, left view, front and back, and also the right view. Then moving on to digital model, I put it on SketchUp. I did a monochromatic and then I did a colored version. Digital drawings have all the different orthographic and axonometric views, as you can see here. Description for this project, we basically followed a tutorial on YouTube made by another LATTC student, and it was a really good tutorial. And then assembling the pieces was a good learning experience, and the finished product seems like it's not as stable, but you can drop it on the floor and it will bounce back. And then principles of design used are symmetry, balance, and unity. And then concluding this project, I have another poster, which is similar to the last one. Okay, and then our final project, urban interventions. Starting this one off, I put the links for the mind map and Google Drive, which were important parts in our project. So our objective for this project is that we're attempting to make various urban interventions challenging community problems like needed green spaces, food, shelter, and other public facilities. And proposals will be located in a 1-mile radius from the AIA headquarters at West LA. Okay, starting this one off, we had to use AI to generate concepts. And so we used DALL-E 2, Photor, and these are some keywords I commonly use when inputting for the sites. Okay, we have a bus stop, a vendor space, cooling center, a green space, solar panels, a drinking fountain, a gym, maintenance facility, a street restaurant, a car station, and urban vertical farm. And there's just a few more, so I'll just scroll through them. Okay, so that was 27 urban interventions. And then we're moving on to site selection. So the general area is this 4450 West Adams Boulevard. And then this is a 1-mile radius map. And so this is our nomenclature made by another student. There's different symbols for all the urban interventions. So this is my site selections. There's a lot of them. So my first one was this site. I was thinking there's a space potential for community farm. And then this one, I was thinking a design studio. This one was a larger space, so maybe a gym. I saw that this space said for lease, so maybe it could be renovated to have a library. I see this one doesn't look very occupied, so it could be a small grocer. Oh, this is the one I made a SketchUp for. Decided to do a street restaurant, so I'll describe this one more later. This is an empty lot near a residence, so it can be multi-unit housing. This is another 1-year residence can be used for ADU and multi-unit housing again. And this one was a small space for a memorial. Okay, SketchUp proposal. So I decided to do a food stall for that location I had said. And it just looks like this. And there's solar panels on it. Here are the different axonometric views. And then we had used CAD Mapper, and you basically need to put the project in the site itself. And so this is what it would look like so building. And yeah, I believe that's it. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Vicente Ashpop. Today I'm going to be presenting my presentations for the class. So this is shape grammar. We got a table of contents. We'll be covering shape grammar, which explores design principles. It explores the operations which manifest in forms and space. It also connects to nature and our feelings and emotions. So this right here is my analog model for the shape grammar project that we did. This right here is a digital model that I did in SketchUp. This is the digital drawings. So the emotions that I picked for my model was embarrassment and hateful. So throughout my project, I just wanted to give a sense of movement. By movement, I mean in regards to the emotion feelings from going from embarrassed to hateful. When you get embarrassed, most of the time it's like a low point as you feel negative feelings. And from the negativity, most of the time comes hateful emotions, hateful either to yourself or towards the party that made you feel embarrassed. So that's why I decided to use these two feelings together. In my project, if you look at it, there's like it goes from the bottom, which starts right here, and basically goes to the top. When it gets to the top, basically means that you get angry, because that's how emotions work, I think. So verbal description of my project. Project started off at the bottom left with a green slab. The green slab represented the embarrassment emotion. And it attached to the corner side of a dowel. The dowel runs vertically for 7 inches north with a 1 curved slab horizontally attached on the center side of the dowel. The end of the 7-inch dowel attaches to a 13-inch dowel horizontally running to the east with a slab vertically attached at the 1/3 and 2/3 mark of the full 13-inch dowel. Multiple slabs are also located vertically at the center of the dowel, stacking up to form a column, which only gives a sense of support, but actually not supporting anything. At the end of this dowel, another 13-inch dowel is attached going back west with a 35-degree angle. This gives the project its angular operation at the end of the dowel. And at the end of the dowel is the red slab. So the design principle is basically it helps us comply with the design rules, design principles, or properties, examples, contracts, balance, emphasis, proportion, hierarchy, repetition, rhythm, patterns, white space, movement, variety, and unity. For my project had principles of the sign of gravity, hierarchy, and movement, also angling, linear, emphasis, hierarchy of the object. And then this right here is my poster. Let's see if I can make it bigger. So yeah, so this right here is the color circle with the emotions. Like I said, I chose embarrassment, which is this green one right here. That's why the green slab on my project was green, because green is for embarrass and red is for hateful. So emotions, embarrass is considered to be a painful but important emotion state. It associates with shame, guilt, awkwardness, regret, and humiliated. And then hateful, it basically is the opposite of love. So associates with anger, contempt, and disgust, which is basically similar to, if you look at the color wheel, disgust is what gets you embarrassed. So that's why I thought these two emotions went together. Like I said, my design principle was gravity, hierarchy, movement, and color. This right here is another pictures of my model. This right here was the physical one, and this is the digital one. So it's integrity, the table of contents. So tensegrity is basically a design principle that applies when a stable 3D structure consisting of members under tension and compression. And this right here is a picture of I forgot his name, but so our model, our tensegrity model consists of 3 parts. Basically the struts, the cables, and the nodes. The struts are rigid elements that are used to create the compression in the structure. Our struts were made out of wood. So the cables are basically tension elements that hold the struts in place. For our project, it was string. And then our nodes were little plastics covering. Description: in this project, I learned how to create a tensegrity model using wooden dowels and strings. After creating this model, I learned how tensegrity can help create a balanced and stable system. The principles of design of tensegrity is symmetry, balance, and unity. This right here is my analog model. On SketchUp, I did the digital model. This right here is the isometric view. The top, right, left, and bottom all have the same views. And front and back also have the same views. This is a digital drawing, pretty similar, just it doesn't have the perspective on it. So a case study I did was the Caribe Bridge. And it was designed by Cox Rayner, who was an architect, and Europe Engineers is basically a company, and was made by Balderstone, which is a construction company. They're the ones that actually built it. It was built in September and opened to the public in October of 2009, located in Australia. The bridge features solar panels. It is 1,540 feet long and 420 feet wide. It has 2 resting platforms throughout the bridge. And in regards to tensegrity, it has 20 steel masts and 252 stainless steel cables. So this right here is some more pictures of the bridge. This is actually like a CAD model that I found. This was a picture of it when it was under construction. And this was also under construction before it was finished. That's it for my tensegrity. So for the urban interventions, is the system, a smart system for ecological restoration, ecosystem, urban interventions. So for this project, we identify the problem, which our cities are out of balance. There's too many homeless people. There's food scarcity, abandonment. There's waste and pollution throughout the city. And there's also depleting resources such as water, energy, soil, and clean air. And it's all due to climate change, the population growth in basically the city, and like people living longer. So the digital twins. So the general goal of digital twin is to serve a digital replica that is sufficiently representative of its real world counterpart. A digital twin is typically composed of data, a model that is also a model that is representative in terms of behavior, and an application that connects the data and model in a way that makes the outputs of the model relevant, given the specific purpose of the digital twin. So what is urban interventions? So urban interventions are a set of strategies, actions, and projects that are aimed to improve the quality of life, sustainability, and resilience of urban areas, such as physical infrastructures, social programs, and cultural events. Other examples are, some examples for creating urban interventions are creating green spaces, building bike lanes, pedestrian infrastructures, sustainable energy systems, supporting local businesses, and promoting community engagements and participation. So solutions and goals. So our goal is basically to achieve balance with food, health, shelter, safety, participation, learning, mobility, performance, and creativity. Some solutions would be ecological restorations of water and soil, our cooling centers, solar shades, tiny homes for population growth, performing stages for entertainments, makerspace, solar lights, art installations, and many more. Our goal is to create sustainable and resilient communities by designing a process to bring back biodiversity and ecological restoration by creating AI images and digital twin to bring urban interventions. So tensegrity can be seen in communities. Communities are basically made out of networks. There's neighborhoods, towns, cities. In the network, it includes social gatherings such as festivals, common spaces like parks, sidewalks, and streets. There's also organizational institutions like church, schools, library, community centers, police stations, fire departments, clinics, and businesses, restaurants, farmer markets, offices, coffee shops, retail, and manufacturers. All these basically run with the help of the other. So that's how basically like network works in the city. So definition of tensegrity is a structure principle. Like I said before, tensegrity can be used to restore balance to ecosystems that have been damaged or degraded. By applying tensegrity principles to ecological systems, we can create a stable and resilient ecosystems that can adapt to changing conditions. With the help of the whole class, we're able to create a mind map. In the mind map, we basically gave solutions to or not solutions, but we gave urban interventions that could be implemented to cities. We used Google Drive to basically implement all the AI imaging so that we all could basically help each other. The case study we had was in 4450 West Adams Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90016. This is a picture of the address. It's going to be the new headquarters for AIA, I believe. This is a legend for the 27 interventions that we had to research and are put on our map. The sites I picked, basically right here in the middle of the map is the site for the new AIA building. And around it, I was able to find some locations that could implement urban interventions. One of the first ones I found was for this observation towers, where basically next to freeway exits. We could also implement green corridors through this little corridor that passes next to the freeway and some houses, some daycares, amphitheaters, some solar lights. This little area I found right here, it's pretty empty. There's no lighting. I actually passed by one day in person and it was really dark. So I think solar lights would be pretty cool on this little corner that it has an empty lot. Tiny houses could be implemented in small little yards to help population growth in the city. Drinking fountains would be a good idea. There's also a big lot that I found that I believe a library could fit in, as well as water collectors. For this project, we use CAD Mapper. In CAD Mapper, we're able to get basically like a 3D model of the 1 mile radius around this site study. In SketchUp, I was able to create the library. So this library is the urban intervention I chose to do. Here is some more views of my model. And these are just the 27 interventions that we did. So we did urban farming, yoga studios, clinics, tiny houses, street vendors, solar lights, bathrooms, observation towers, restaurants, personal care, pocket parks, multi-units, memorials, maintenance facilities, maker space, libraries, green roofs, green corridors, food banks, drinking fountains, daycares, cooling sensors, scooter stations, canopies, bus stops, art galleries, amphitheaters, and ADUs. These are many urban interventions that can be added to the city to basically help restore and improve the cities itself. And that is the end of my presentation.
Okay, the first one I'll present is my motion model. It's using a shape grammar. Shape grammars are systems of visual rules by which one shape may transform into another. By applying these rules recursively, a simple shape can be elaborated into a complex pattern. This course offers an in-depth introduction into shape grammars and their applications in architecture and relates areas most of design. Discussions center on rules and computations of shapes and structures and designs. Using a kit of parts, make a composition following these rules below expressed two emotions. This is design exercise where you will explore design principles and operations to manifest and form and space. To be a designer, we need to be connected in which nature and our feelings, emotions. Nature follows mathematical principles that will study in class. The rules, you can only glue the pieces center, middle, and end. Only 5 pieces can be vertical, including stick. Gather emotions, but only choose 2 emotions to represent them in your design. We can only cut sticks 4 times. When you cut the stick, you can only cut it half, a fourth, and third. Here's my analog model of what I made. Here is an analog drawing of it. Here are the digital drawings I did in SketchUp. More digital drawings. The way I built my model in SketchUp is by making the shape and size of the model, and then I copied and pasted those 4 shapes, and I made it look like the model I made by comparing it to the picture. So I used a small square, a medium square, and a big square. And with the picture, I compared it to make it look like the model I made. Description of the emotion. The emotion was shown in my model is the element of surprise, because one of the rules was to use 10 squares. If I decided to use more than that, I used 31 squares to surprise Olivia. And so my model will stand out from the others by being more detailed. That's it for this one. Second slide I'll present is urban interventions. What does urban interventions mean? This is a name given to several different types of activists, art, and design. Arts is the generate response to social, community, place, identify the builds, environment, and public places. The objectives are usually to create new awareness of social problems and to simulate community participation, finding ways to improve the quality of life, in short. Why should we care of urban interventions? One thing we should consider is the population is growing, but we don't have unlimited resources such as food and water, or shelter, or construction as in materials. We also have to worry about pollution and waste, and also think about energy and power. What is the goal of urban interventions? The goal of urban interventions is that we are trying to find more efficient ways to save on resources and space because the population of our planet is growing. Here are some AI-generated images. This is the urban farming. Here are the solar lights, a tiny house, a drinking fountain, a library, a green corridor, water collector, and an amphitheater. And here's the legend of all those things. And here is a map of where I placed all of these. It's the location of the urban farming, located here. Here's the place for the solar lights, located here. The tiny house is placed here. Water collector. A drinking fountain, very close to each other. The library. Green corridor. And last, the amphitheater. No, that's it. Oh. The last one I'll present is tensegrity model. What is tensegrity? Tensegrity is a tensile integrity or floating comparison is a structural principle based on a system of isolated comparison components within continuous tension network and arranged in such a way that compressed elements, usually bars or strands, do not touch each other. Yes, while they're pre-stressing and tension elements use cables or tendons. Here's an example of that. Tensegrity in nature. Geometric patterns found throughout nature in the helix of DNA and the geostatic dome of vortex, bunkosphere, and more may also be understood based by applying principles of tensegrities by spontaneous self-assembly of compounds, proteins, and even organs. So here's image statement A, and also spider web could also be in this example. Tensegrity and architecture. The ancient pyramids are a classic example of this form of construction. By creating larger bays and stacking higher and higher, a structure can be created. Tensegrity is precisely the opposite. Instead of focusing on solid foundation, tensegrity structures work through tension. Bridges and power lines are also examples of tensegrity used in architecture. Here are images of my tensegrity model that I've made. I don't think this slide was completely finished, but that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
I'm gonna present my final presentation of the class. The shake grammar and emotion wheel, and I choose confidence and happiness for my shape grammar project. And I choose confident because I have a clear image of the project in my mind. And happiness because I was happy in doing it and enjoying and having fun. And the description is I had the idea how to do this project when I was playing drums because I was feeling the rhythm and how was I going to build it. And one of the things on my project that I put on the sticks is the cross and a way to like count the compass from the music. The principle designs movement. Movement is the path of viewer's eye takes through the composition, and an image the kinds of line shapes and forms artists use it can affect this movement. Repetition, one element is repeatedly used in create units. Contrast, and a graphic design can take many forms and can be simple as using light and dark colors and a big and a small size. Rhythm, this can be achieved by using repetition pattern or color throughout the spaces to make scenes cohesive. This is some image of the principal design, the definition, the description, and the sentence. This is the analog model from my grammar. the digital model, the digital drawings without the perspective, and analog drawings, and my poster. And I put some description from the two motion that I choose, and the rotation and balance is the ability to distribute your weight in a way that lets the stand of movement without falling or recover if you trip. So this is the tensegrity. So one thing that I found that they also call the tensegrity tile structure. A structure that is characterized by tension of fabric of pliable material systems, typical with the wear of cable to provide the critical structural support to the structure. Tension and compression are two forces that you hear and a lot about when you study architecture. Most structures we build are in compression bricks on a bricks board, and board pushing and squished down into the ground, where the weight of the building is balanced by the solid earth. Tensoriety architecture is the name given to the form of tensile architecture, whereby physical structures are held in place by the balance of tensiles and compressions, force acting upon them. Egbert 1993, the opposite force act in union to the main of the shape of the structure. So I put this image to represent the integrity, like what means, and its quality of life, particip- participatory design, education, creation, infrastructure, safety, transportation, energy, land, and housing, and carbon footprint. The digital model, and this is one of the pictures that I take when, when we're in the presentation of Tensority last month, I think. Some case study. This is the bridge that Vicente also presents, so I think, do you want me to say something about it, or that's fine? This is my poster. And this is the image of the AI of the urban intervention. This is a tiny house, another tiny house, a tower observation, bus stop, a garden. I like this one because it represents the conservative too. Another bus stop. And that's it.
You guys see me? They can. Hey, how's it going? Can you guys hear me? So my presentation was for urban interventions for the AIA. We gather up information amongst our classmates in Professor Olivia's class. So here's my presentation. Layla gave us the blueprint for the interventions, green spaces, health centers, participations, learning spaces, space solutions, housing, and food and businesses. And here are some of my interventions that I did. So I found a vacant lot on Crenshaw. Gotta move this out the way. 2450 Crenshaw Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90016. And as you can see, I put a laundromat and a food bank. And these are just some of the things that we can put in those lots. So I also created a green space, which were bus stops. So I created a bus stop on Revit, and this is the model to the left. Old school structure with 4 steps and a platform, 4 white pillars with a pyramid style roof. Landscape will have modern billboards with propaganda and lighting house style lighting, a lighthouse style lighting. And then I also put a modern day bus stop in a retro world. So it's pretty interesting to see both environments come to one. I also put on food, an indoor layout of a storefront, food shelves with displays, checkout counters, large displays with instant food kitchen. So as you can see, this might be like a kitchen, 7-Eleven, for example, Circle K, I don't know, maybe a Subway for healthy food environments. I also put a 3D model of a gas station that can also be a food bank, grocery store, a refueling station. It can also be used as a cooling center for many people. And I also put a learning space, which I kind of like. Learning interventions with live retro music playing in the background. A place where you can sit down, present, give projects. Second story view to the lower. So there's a second story view to the lower, that you can see the lower level, exclusive access to the for that type of treatment. There's also a TV layout. Maybe you can put a DJ right in front of it and it can probably perform it. And yeah, this is the behind the learning space is probably a more of a VIP access, lower level where you could be meeting with tables, TVs, and with TV appliances, backstage access to those type of creations. I also put a health center, which I put a skate park and a slide for, for health purposes. You can also put a walkway, a bike lane, maybe a track around the skate park. Participations, so an art gallery that I like. So I put an art gallery. It can feature old, new, and urban artists, including sculptures of renowned local and artists from the region. And I also put a statue of Nipsey Hussle, a sculpture of an influential person from my community. And I put also a photography studio, which can create which creators can create content for their platform. Safe solutions, canopy shades. It can serve for many purposes, cooling centers, and also a cafe or a small mini market for refreshments. I also put housing, which was in our instance was an ADU structure. So I actually put a garage and the structure, the actual layout structure of the ADUs. I didn't put an actual ADU because that's my second project. I also put businesses, which are sneaker shops in my presentation. I put sneaker shops because I'm familiar with that type of environment. And these are some of the places where we can establish those. For example, this is an ADU, and this would be like a park. That's all I have for now. The rest is nothing.
Can you hear me? Okay, the first project was the shape grammar, the table of content. This is the perspective of my analog model. These are all the views, the 6 views, the top, the back, front, bottom, left, and right. The analog drawings, we drew the model in each view, the 6 views. Then we did it on SketchUp, and this is my digital model. And these are all the views of my digital drawing: the top view, bottom view, front, back, left, and right. And here are all the perspectives and the views. For the description, the design principles that I used was balance, that it refers to the distribution of elements in a specific design. It seeks out order and stability in any image that we see. It simply makes our minds more comfortable. Then I use gravity. In my design, the gravity is what holds the structure down and helps it balance out with its own weight. I also use asymmetry. The asymmetrical design is an intentionally uneven arrangement of visual elements. To identify an asymmetrical design, you can check for irregular sizing, changes in weight, differing shapes, and contrasting colors. For the design operations, I use linear composition and repetition. The linear composition is the thoughtful arrangement of edges and the proportions of the areas enclosed by them. In my project has a linear composition because it's aligned to the dowel rod. Therefore, it gives the sensation of organization. The repetition is the repeated use of visual elements to create a pattern, movement, and rhythm. Using the kit of parts, the balsa wood rectangles creates repetition in the model. In the abstract description, the feeling that I choose was peace. I choose peace as the emotion to represent my project. Peace is a state of tranquility and quiet. I also used the sound of the rain falling. I wanted to represent the sound of rain falling. Rainfall noises help lull the brain into falling asleep, block outside noises, and frequently induce a more meditative state that brings on relaxation. The detailed description in my analog model is supported on a 9.5-inch doweled rod. The body is made up of 10 2x1 inches balsa wood rectangles. 5 rectangles are placed horizontally, and the remaining 5 are placed vertically. These are glued together, only touching from the center and the middle. The model gives the sensation of falling, as raindrops fall from a surface. These are the resources that I used and some other notes. Here is the shape grammar poster. Yeah, here is the poster for the grammar shape, for the shape grammar, sorry. And that represents all the explanation and the description and the filling and the models, the 3D models and the drawings. Integrity. Here is my analog model with all the views. It's hard to know which view is which one, but here the front, the back, the right, and the left. For this one, we also needed to draw it in digital model in SketchUp. This is my digital model. And these are all the views, the 6 views, the top, bottom, back, front, right, and left. For the description, tensegrity is a tensional integrity or floating compression. Is a structural principle based on a system of isolated components under compression inside a network of continuous tension and arranged in such a way that the compressed members do not touch each other, while the pre-stressed tension members delineate the system spatially. In other words, tensegrity is an island of compression inside of an ocean of tension. The tension force, tensegrity uses 2 forces, the tension and compression. The tension is described as the pulling force transmitted actually by the means of a string or rope, chain, or similar objects. And compression is the application of power, pressure, or exertion against an object that causes it to become squeezed, squashed, or compacted. And so we find tensegrity in nature. We can find it in spider fever tensegrity in the spider web, in the body, for example, in the muscles. Also, we find it in our life. Tensegrity in our architecture. This is a case study and some notes. So I also have a poster for that, but it's practically the same. So this is tensegrity poster that it shows the description, the forces that it used, tensegrity in nature, the case of study. This is my my model, and this is the SketchUp model, and with all the views. The urban intervention and ecological restoration. We have the introduction that the following project consists of 27 urban interventions and ecological restoration project encircling the new AIA headquarters. This is the mind map that we did in class with all the 27 spaces to intervene. We did image creations with artificial intelligence. This is a creative art gallery, more art gallery and stage. Another one, amphitheaters, pop-up learning spaces, cooling centers with canopies, food banks and street vending carts, bus shelters and bus lanes, water collectors, nature walks, observation towers, restaurants. And then we had the identification of 10 empty lots and intervention proposals. This is all the nomenclature of all the spaces that we have. And here is the map. The star is where the AIA's headquarters is located, and all the empty lots that I choose. This is the first one. In this one, I wanted to integrate a nature walk, a pocket park, another pocket park, a yoga studio, gym, or sports center, a tiny houses, it's more, a clinic, and car service and scooter stations. This is the drive that all the class share the images. And finally, the 3D model of an intervention proposal. I choose this, the car service and scooter stations. So I recreate it in SketchUp. These are the views, orthogonal views, the front, the back, the left, the right, and the location in the map, in CAD Mapper. This is the AIA headquarters, and this is the empty lot that I choose. And this is the view in the CAD Mapper. And these are notes. And that's my presentation.
To explore the hierarchy, movement, pattern, and white space. And I was also inspired by the Fibonacci sequence and a Dutch painter, Pierre Mondrian. This is photos of my analog model. And these are drawings of the model. We also had to create the model on SketchUp. And these are the digital drawings of that model. I wanted to explore hierarchy because it's effective in communicating meaning. If you add a color, it's impactful. With using size, it communicates the importance. It also gives you a sense of order. It carries meaning, and it allows for a story. I wanted to also use the Fibonacci sequence, which is the sum of the preceding ones related, which is the sum of the two preceding ones related to the golden ratio. And these are the numbers I use. Mainly I use 0, 1, 2, 3, and 5. I also wanted to explore division in my composition. I cut the stick 4 ways, and these are the divisions it took. So it's cohesive. It also it's a uh, it's uniform, and it gives a rhythm to my composition. For my description, I began by cutting the sticks into quarters. Um, I had squares, so I wanted the squares to be rectangles, so I glued them together. And we had 10 rectangles in total. I created an outline for the design first, gluing everything. And I placed the sticks vertical, and I made 4 sections. After I did some research and decided to use a Fibonacci sequence, I'll just read the last. This led me to remember Dutch painter Piet Mondrian and his composition with red, blue, and yellow, and that is why you see a colored in my composition. And finally, I connected a vertical standing piece on the middle of a horizontal triangle. Then I left a space and placed a horizontal rectangle above, and in the middle of that, a vertical rectangle, and lastly, a horizontal one that also connected to the fourth stick. These are my resources and some of my notes. And this is the inspiration for the colored. And this is my poster for this. What can I show in? For this assignment. And next, we moved on to building a tensegrity. This is my table of contents. This is the analog model of the tensegrity I created at home. My drawing of it. The SketchUp, the digital model I created on SketchUp. More drawings of that SketchUp model. And tensegrity is a structural principle coined by Buckminster Fuller. And tensegrity structures are classified as pre-stressed and geodesic structures. And these are the components. You have the compressed components, which are the bars and struts, and the tension members, which are the cables or tendons. And these are the bars and the cables. And these are some examples of tensegrity in architecture. Lastly, we move to ecological restoration to urban intervention. We created a 1 mile block next to the AI community and figured out interventions. These are some of the interventions we use: urban garden, pocket park, tiny houses, health center, street library, solar green roof, makerspace, learning center, and kiosk. This is one of the locations I picked and some of the projects. This will be good for a multi-unit or tiny houses. This is another location I picked where it could be a facade restoration or an addition to the second floor. And this will be clinics on top. This is another location which could be a pocket park, and some examples using an AI as well. Another pocket park. This is my take on the pocket park. I created those chairs for the pocket park using an AI. And this is the pocket park with a fence would go along this way on the back. Could be this fence or this fence. Both are examples using an AI. These are the chairs I modeled on SketchUp using the AI and some furniture. This is another location. Another location where you can add libraries, and these are the examples from AI. This is a four-way location of gas stations where you can create a more eco-friendly facade using solar panels or more greenery. This is another location where you can create an amphitheater or pavilion. These are the urban interventions I created using AI. And thank you.
All right, so this is from our Pando, our award that we won. And these pictures show it here. The case studies here, so the different ones. So the Justice Index, the values indicators, the biodiversity digital twin, the scholars work, and the smart cities as well. So building the emotional space using the shape grammar. One second, so sorry. So you typically have the visual rules where you will have to have one shape that could be transformed into another. And applying these rules will give a simple shape that can be elaborated into a complex pattern. And following these rules, you can have more of an in-depth introduction. So the discussion typically centers on the rules and computations, the shape, structure, and designs. And you could use different feelings and emotions that you could be connected with nature that will provide more mathematical studied in class. So like with the rules, you can only glue the pieces in the center, middle, and end. You have the 5 pieces, and as you can see, the rest of the rules as well. So the parametric driven design. We have all these steps here. So like there's the define the parameters, you have your selecting the kit of parts, creating the algorithm, generating the design, refine the design, and then produce the final design as part of the process. Also, they'll be creating the motion space. You've got color, lighting, texture, scale, form, and contrast. And then for the sacred geometry and patterns, we have these points of symmetry, fractals, proportion, sacred symbols, and natural. Okay. And then here's a project. And then this one was the tensegrity for humanity. So knowing about tensegrity is important for being an architecture, engineer, and designer to help us understand the nature and become resilient to climate change, food scarcity, and housing. So these are some questions to think about. And these pictures are from a handout about related to the tensegrity. Okay, and then here's a tensegrity model. So you have the shape. And then as it gets bigger, you could cut off the edges so it gets those more shapes, the more factoral faces on it. And then tensegrity can be applied to different types of shapes with these ones, as you can see with the square, the triangle, the hexagon. And this is kind of just the process of showing it how you use the sticks together with the wires. And this kind of just shows the different ways that it can mesh together and form. And this is just another way of showing how these pieces can be connected through the process. You could have the pieces either connected touching or overlapping in some ways. So the left and the right side kind of show different ways of how the pieces are connected. All right, so this is more on the connection on how you can connect it with the different shapes on it. You've got A and B. One is showing how you can kind of put it over the other one or how you can cut it through. It's a comparison on how those connections work. And then I liked this because the contrast between the red and the gray shows you the different ways you can connect it, and it gives you a better idea of how they connect. This is kind of an egg shape, and how those different sides can form to the egg shape, and you can see the geometry laid on top of the egg shape and the comparison between the egg shape and the sphere, with all of these different vertices created by the geometric shapes laid on top of the shape. So you've got A here with those triangular shapes. B's got different shapes and different connections. C's got it laid over a curved surface, and D's got it laid over another curved surface. And the geometry changes, and there's more triangles in D.
First, let me slideshow. All right. So this is my presentation. My name is Ralph Steven Ariano. That's a photo of me. That's my email. This is the table of contents for the shape grammar. Starting at analog model, we're gonna have right here, the analog model. And the analog drawings, which we used white pencil and on a black sheet of paper. This is the digital model, which was done on SketchUp. Mm. And these are the digital drawings. These are the table of contents again. We're down to the description where right here I highlighted what I used as my emotions for the shape grammar, which is happy, powerful, and confident. I picked these because it's always good to be happy, always good energy, and powerful because I made my shape grammar model very sturdy. It could withstand a lot of damage or fall or stuff like that, and confident because it looked very the model I designed. I wanted it to look formal and like clean and neat and organized, as like a confident person would you would see walking down the street. Um, so as the descriptions, this is like the principles, layers, which I picked were layers of gravity, asymmetrical, contained, operation, representation, emotion, confident, and happy. The production of creating something beautiful by following a process is like a puzzle that brings me pride and happiness. Yes, it was like a feeling. I felt like I was putting my emotions together when putting my model together because I was feeling all these emotions while I was putting like designing this model. Shape grammar description. So description is basically um the emotions, like how the emotions was a key factor for the influence of my design, using happiness as a strong emotion and the leading factor of my design. I believe that being happy while doing something will cause enjoyment, peaceful, and balance while putting together my design. I was focused and confident in what I wanted to do while making it powerful and hard to break. While having a feeling of being well put together and balanced in reaction, this design should feel safe, peaceful to the eyes and in emotions. Okay, let's go. This is my shape grammar poster, which I should zoom out. Okay, right here. Pretty much just like this is a summary of the PowerPoint, but like highlights the important parts that I think are, which are the emotions that will greatly influence my model and my drawings and my analog model and my especially my digital models, which I use SketchUp again and took me about an hour and a half, 2 hours to make the model. Yeah, and I also have my other presentation, which is what's not here, right? Should I like present this? This is my integrity poster. So I wrote here, a tensegrity model is a structure concept that combines tension and compression elements in a balanced system, creating a stable and flexible structure. It consists a network of studs or bars held in tension by an arrangement of cables or wires, which just means it's just the wires are a sort of tension that could get pulled or stretched out, and the compression part would be the sticks, which allows it not to fully get crushed. So together it's held together without any like supports, just using the tension and compression. I believe the tensegrity model has 27 interventions, which will be explained on another presentation. Thank you. For using parcels, which yellow would mean residential and commercial red, government brown, industrial blue, institutional purple, miscellaneous brown, recreational green, and so on. So when I open this, the parcels, I made sure my site, my 10 sites were on top of like, commercial government, just to know like if the site I'm building would like it fits, if I would put a park, I'd make sure not putting it in a commercial, or seeing if I'd be able to change the land property. But around, like, as you can see, most of my sites are residential, and the other half is commercial. Here, this is a site which I'll show you in SketchUp what I picked. Let me see. The images for inspiration was from my fellow classmate LATTC, which used an AI to make an amphitheater. And this is Layla's AI. And here's the site. See it. Okay. Anyways, so let me go to. So this is my amphitheater, like stadium or concert hall, inspired by the Roman theater, which you can see it's half finished. I still need more steps, but it's up to scale. 3 feet of space of run width, and height would be 1.5 feet, roughly. There's a lot of space there, and there's pretty much gonna be a outside like environmental park outside. It's gonna look very Roman like amphitheater, and there's gonna be a dome on the top that has solar panels. This whole section should have solar panels, since north is pointing this way, and the sun would rise here and fall to the west. So, and the parking would be on this area right here for the amphitheater. Yeah, this is my SketchUp. Thank you for listening.
All right, so here is my PowerPoint presentation of this entire class that I've been putting together. Short bio. Our first project was the shape grammar. Gloss over the rules. You can only glue in the center, middle, and end. Only 5 pieces can be vertical. Choose 2 emotions to design your composition. You can only cut the stick 4 times. You can only cut it in half, a quarter, a third, and use all the pieces. So my analog model, this is what I came up with. I was using like a sense of security and safety. So it looks like a little fort. Other angles. And then I also have analog drawings of it, which I did with a white pencil on black paper. I recreated it in SketchUp for my digital model. And then the digital drawings also from SketchUp. Here's the emotion wheel that I used and a couple of resources. And then the poster that I made for it. From there, we went into the tensegrity structures. So I spent a day with a few of my classmates, and we made about 50 of these tensegrity models. So here's the physical model. I still need to do the analog drawing, but I also have the digital model in SketchUp and the digital drawings. And then from there, we went into the urban interventions. And I have compiled a bunch of AI images for different ideas. ADU, amphitheater, art galleries and museums, public bathrooms, bus stop, shade structures, cooling centers, daycares, gathering spaces, green corridors, gyms, library, health centers, memorials, multi-units, nature walks, observation towers, parade floats, electric scooter stations, sheds, solar powered lights, street vending carts, tiny houses, urban farms, and water collection systems. And then I also have a shed design that I did for the other class with a couple windows and some street art on it as well. And then my parade float design as well that I did in SketchUp. And that comes to the conclusion of my PowerPoint.
Thank you for watching. Fabulous work.